Welcome back to the Four Podmen, the wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. We're also available on Anchor if you prefer the audio versions of our show, on Podbean, Spotify, or wherever you pick up your audio podcasts. And this week being a very special week, it's the height of WrestleMania week, and we're in the midst of it. So today we get our Podmen on. Welcome, Joe. How are you?
I'm all good, pal. Good to be here, as always.
And my hot tag partner, as always, the D-O-double-G. Jay, how you doing, my man?
I am fucking great. The sun is shining. The streets are full of optimistic children playing before their futures lay waste to them. It's cutting me, to the core of me like a knife. I had to close the window. All that hopeful optimism was just fucking sinking my ship, baby. Don't know what to do with it.
Well, we said with it being Mania week, there's nowhere else to start but with, of course, the Hall of Fame, which at times is quite a controversial subject. So lads, Joe, what you're thinking overall on the Hall of Fame? I mean, in general.
Well, I would love for there to be an actual physical Hall of Fame, like they have with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where there's an actual place you can go and visit. But I'd also love it to be independent of WWE, because I know they have all the money and they're probably the crowd that could do it. But I'd love to see like a Hall of Fame where it's just all historic. There's replicas of belts from promotions you've never heard of and all this. Like, I'd love to see, replicas of the 10 pounds of gold and all the great champions they had and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if WWE do it, it's just going to be all their guys, because you guys spoke about it on the invasion angle, where Vince just all he wanted to do was just crap on the opposition that he bought over. So I'd love to see it independently run. I doubt it'll ever happen though. But I'd love to see, regardless, even if WWE ran it, I'd love to see an actual physical one that you could go and visit, which I think might happen one day.
Yeah, I mean, they have said that it's in the pipeline, that there is talk that they will create a physical Hall of Fame. But I suppose the difficulty would be getting all the promotions to agree to put all their stuff under one roof. Might be a bit difficult. Jay, what's your thinking?
I think 100% it's inevitable. I think H is so fucking itchy for it. I think he loves the business. I think he loves its past. I think it's already designed. I think it's going to be a touring fucking spectacle that'll follow the Mania round. It'll be part of their, WrestlePalooza weekend, where every small independent draws near wherever WrestleMania or WWE plants its flag. I think I think he's the man to do it. I think it will be a solid structure. But where would you put it? I suppose you could put it in Connecticut somewhere, but it will be a touring thing. And again, with you, Joe, I'd love to see all them old belts and replicas of the old everything, just robes and ring gear. And I'd love to see mannequins wearing the clothes of former greats. I'd love to stand beside these things and see how big they are, just to give you a scale of the Andres of this world. You know what I mean? For every fan who's been near the product in the real and at the Access weekends, it's still only a drop in the ocean compared to how many have watched globally. I can see that being the first massive post-Vince olive branch to every federation around the world, the Japanese, the Australians, the Europeans. I can see it being something big, but like we said, it can only happen after Vince. It can't happen before him. Nothing existed before '84.
Yeah, I think I've gone to a couple of fan accesses in my time when I've gone to WrestleMania, and there's always a section in fan access that you walk in, and they have like some of the old stuff there. Like they'd have, Vince's and Gene Oakland's old colored blazers, and Jack Tunney and Sean Mooney's stuff would be there, and there'll be one or two of Flair's robes, of course, and stuff like that. And it always is fantastic. You'd see that the crown would be there from Harley Race, the King stuff.
Yes.
It's really cool stuff to see, and it's all boxed off and really well done, So there would be definitely an appetite there. I suppose.
Pure.
Yeah, I suppose if you're going to do it, Florida would probably be a great location for it, because you've got a big holiday place there as well, and they do so much work down there with the Performance Center and NXT and all that.
The Performance Center, yes.
So something near the Performance Center, or even you could even do, maybe, I don't know, could you put something into Universal or something into Disney or something like that?
I think it'd be like a Planet Hollywood. I think they'll have 3 structures or 2 structures permanently, semi-permanently, where they move their merch around. Now, ideally for me, how I'd love to see it done, like if I was to sit down and write, this is how you do a Hall of Fame wrestling wise. I'd love to do it the way they did the Guinness Factory, you start at the start, right? You walk in and it's fucking black and white and dusty, and it's almost corridor-like, and you walk through the eras and you just see it getting bigger and brassier and the pump. I mean, you go from that first room where it's black and white Lutez shit, and then you get into the San Martino era, and there's slightly more lights and a bit more pizzazz. And then you hit that fucking 1984, 80 shit, and you're like, wow, okay, yeah. Now, but to use it as an experience to take you through the growth of the business, just the corridor getting bigger and more rambunctious, and stage sets and urns and Undertaker intros and big projected screens and holographic images whilst you walk through the quaint stuff like Jimmy Hart's megaphone and the belts as they progress through the years to bring you up to where you go in. You know what I mean? I'd love to walk in through it, to say, like the Performance Center, walk into an NXT house show, say that, you know, you kind of the Hall of Fame house weekend where you do the time travel, and then you're in, take your seats, we're going to show you a show.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So Vince McMahon is listening. Jay has it down. Just get on to him. He knows exactly how he has a sword. It sounds fantastic. You know what I mean?
He visits it in his head. You know what I mean? I sleep in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's like you could go on like one of those ghost train things, but just for wrestling that takes you through like a time capsule type thing.
Yeah, you know, sit your ass down in the whole train, yo. We going from Blassie to Classy.
And just as you're coming out the end, some lad just gives you a clothesline instead of scaring you or something like that, you know. Quality, you know.
Stan Hansen, Larry at the eye out of your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could do without that last bit, to be honest.
Yeah, listen, it's the full experience, baby. You wanted the work, you got the work.
Everything now, Joe, is 4K and 8K technology now, you know. You don't get away with it, you know?
Dr. Death coming out to slap the spit out of your mouth because you thought it wasn't real. I believe it's real. What you hit me for? Telling me, ma.
And that's the da. Brilliant. I think as well it'd be really beneficial for the younger fan base to actually get to understand some of the history of the business as well, as opposed to, you know, just
standing on the shoulders of giants, man. We didn't come from nowhere. We didn't just lick it up off the ground. But I also think as well, imagine if you had a tour like that, something a good 2 and 3 hours long, like buckle up and imagine what it would do numbers wise to house shows, house NXT shows. You'd be putting like loads of extra, like a package ticket, get a night of wrestling and 2.5 hours travel through the tunnel of time in pro wrestling. Like, it'd be a weekly spectacle when it wasn't on the road with the big shows.
Yeah. I mean, they could even bring in all legends and all and stuff like that, and they could take part in it. You know what I mean? It could be a real interactive type tour around this thing. Man. You know what I mean? It'd be fantastic.
A potluck signing. We'll say 10 old timers from then till now. Whoever's alive, cauliflower ear memberships, lifers, men who you've never heard before. You never know who you're going to get. Like potluck. One day it could be Horowitz, and then he'd be standing beside, you know. Yeah. Mark Callis, you know what I mean? You don't know who you're going to get, but you get your scrapbook and you got it all signed because you bought the deluxe. It'd be great.
Imagine coming into a nice C-section and Tito Santana's standing there and all.
So
cool, like, you know what I mean? It'd be brilliant.
It would be. I mean, you want to go back as well. If you got 5 or 6 old timers, one, they're picking up a paycheck every week, and 2, you never know who you're going to get. You know what I mean? It's like the Pokemon of pro wrestling.
Yeah. Which is funny enough, it's very like what fan access is like as well. Unless you book one of the VIP tickets, you don't know who's going to be there for your fan access. You could meet anybody, you know, so it's kind of cool as well. But yeah, let's get into it. We've 2 classes to cover, obviously, because of COVID. So let's deep dive first into the class of 2020. And we start with none other than Mr. John Bradshaw Layfield, JBL. What's the thinking on this guy, boys? I know Jay's a fan of the APA.
Well, I'm a huge fan of the APA. I absolutely love them. But like, you know, if it wasn't in 2020, he was going to go in at some stage. You know, he was a world champion for nearly a year, was it?
Yeah.
You know, carried the SmackDown brand for that whole time. Had an unbelievable rivalry with Eddie Guerrero. He also, as we alluded to, he had the APA, the tag team stuff in the APA. He went on to commentate then for years. So like it was inevitable he was going to go in at some stage. No surprise, really.
Yeah, nailed to the wall company, man, from the get-go. But again, it was only we were talking about him recently. It's one of the things I love about these chats that we have. I start to put the pieces together as a critical analyst as opposed to a worked fan. And for years, I didn't like JBL. I loved him in APA. And then when he became the Texan stockbroker and all of the BS and stuff you've heard about him over the years, he hardly endears to you as a person. But then you look as well and realize there's still men in the business who it's real to, God damn it. And some men don't turn that heel shit off. Jericho's one, JBL was another. I mean, I remember the boos he got in the RDS show that I did. I don't know what year now, but you remember that show?
2005, the Summer Bash.
The fucking boos he got, and that was no small bleeding, you know.
Yeah.
It was an outdoor, beautiful, sunny day, and he came out and he was giving it the big one about, you know, Great Britain and the Queen and how the wrong flags were flying in the wind and shit like that. I don't even remember. I was so angry. I don't remember what he was saying. And then, you know, you look back and you go, we talk about this guy who you can't get behind, the guy who's not supposed to be an underdog underground. Why are they rooting for him? He's a straight up cut off the 80s cloth, old fashioned cowboy hat wearing fucking heel. And that's quality calico in a day like this. You don't few and far between.
I think for that Summer Bash as well, I think that was in the height of the Finlay program, was it? So he was working fit, wasn't he? So that probably didn't help either, coming to Ireland and working fit Finlay, I think it was.
It was actually after that weekend after I'd seen Fit. I hate wearing tees of people that I haven't seen in music and stuff like that. And I bought a Finn t-shirt off you. I still have it, oddly enough, because I'm back working heavy things again. It fits again, but it's the Fighting Irish Bastard one with the leprechaun. Brilliant. It's one of my favorite shirts, just because of that night, because of how entertained I was, just for 2.5 hours. You let it all slide away, and it's Punch and Judy shit all over again.
Well, this man cost me a lot of money back in the day. One of the gripes I have with him was, at the beginning, or not the beginning, but somewhere in the middle of the boom of the Cena boom, we created this US spinny belt, if you remember it. And I remember a lot of people wanted this belt, so I put in a lot of orders for this US spinner belt. And by the time the belts arrived at the shop, this lad had binned the belt, and then nobody wanted it. And he brought back the normal US belt, and I was going, damn you, JBL. Here I have a shop full of these US spinner belts now that I'm going to want.
What am I going to do with all this crap?
Yeah, what am I going to do with all this now, you know? But yeah, I certainly think when we talk about people going in and deserving and not deserving, he's certainly in there.
Yes, he's as valid as any ever.
Yeah,
consummate professional wrestler. Worked our emotions like we didn't even know what was happening at the time. Yeah. And a prick to boot.
Yeah. Next up, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Again, probably another one that should have been in a lot sooner than now, but things got sorted out one way or another, and he's going in. And certainly, man, I don't know what your feelings are on this. You know, I often find when it's like a wrestler going in who was a tag team as well, and I mean, you could say the same with JBL, but I think the APA went in, didn't they? If I'm not mistaken.
I know Ron Simmons is in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ron went in actually, and as for
JBL, inaugurated him.
Yeah. But what's your feeling on the Bulldog one, Jay?
Again, pure fucking work. Being where I'm from and seeing that flag so often and so much as a child, even as a 6 and 7 year old, I was very politically minded, whether it be a good or a bad thing, and the music and I as a child I loved them, but I also hated that flag, so you couldn't separate the pair of them. But as a worker, Jesus Christ, he was there for the glory years, and he always turned up, and he always entertained. He always entertained. Like, I mean, I wouldn't be one who stands with the Brett side of things about how he carried them through that fucking, was it SummerSlam in Wembley?
Yeah.
I wouldn't be. I've watched that match, and I don't see what other people see or what Brett sees. I see a man who might have been a little bit out of his depth, wrestling somebody of the technical prowess of Brett, but that could be said for anybody in the history of the world and the business. It's Bret fucking Hart at the height of Bret Mania, like, and I think that match was down the middle from what I can see as a fan. I've never worked, but I think he deserves it. I would like if there was a bit. You can't mention him without the other, and I would like if there was a little bit of you know, bygones be bygones with the British Bulldogs. I mean, they were so fucking over, the pair of them, with bringing out Winston and Matilda, and they had a great look to them. They were fucking sharp. Between the pair of them, you had almost the apex professional tag team. You know what I mean? You had small worry fucker who could go all along, and you had the big man who was the hot tag and just used to pick everybody up and throw them around on a level of fucking hawk and animal. It was a lovely pairing. And look, wrestling is a long and storied career people follow now, and it's a damn shame that it gets in the way of the professional aspect of their business. But he definitely richly deserves to be there. No question.
Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd be with Jay. I think as a tag team, it'd be better that the two of them went in, because as a tag team, they were stupid popular. More so than they ever were in America now, of course, that they were more popular as a pairing than they ever were individually. But like, he absolutely deserves to be there. There's no doubt about that.
If anything, just for the cornrows.
Well, like he sorry, I'm gonna start again. I keep getting tripped over more. But when you think of him, when you think of the British Bulldogs, Davey Boy tends to be the first one you think of, instead of Dynamite Kid. Because for WWE, I mean,
unless you're one of the Rougeos.
Well, yeah, no, yeah. Well,
or an 80s kid.
Well, they might actually want to forget Dynamite Kid, to be fair. So they'd probably be happy to remember Davey Boy more so. But you know what I mean? Like, but as a pairing, I'd love to see them go in as a tag team, because it's where they were their most popular and most over.
Yeah, I was looking. Obviously, WWE often they leak out some of the pictures from the classes, and obviously this is the class that should have happened last year. But I seen a picture there the other day of his daughter with the son, and the son is the absolute image of him. There is absolutely no doubt about it. But they were standing there and they were holding a dog Matilda, like, and I was just thinking, isn't it a shame that the stuff with Dynamite and all, you know what I mean? Because
it's horrible when real life just fucks up with your childhood with shit like that, though. I get it. Yeah. I understand it. I'm not excusing any of it. Look, we've all had our own little fucking foibles with people along the way. That's what life is. Yeah. But when you think about their importance and significance, it's a very early marriage of global styles. Like, Dynamite was that very Japanese style, fucking snap suplexes. To watch him work with Tiger Mask is like watching ballet. And then you had Davey Boy, who was that pure American style of fucking powerhouse. Do you know what I mean? He's all arm. There was a symbiotic relationship between them in their work and its output. And they could go up against anybody in the day, and it didn't matter. Belts weren't important when they were around. It was just pure entertainment.
Yeah. But again, they were highly decorated as well. I mean, if you look at the records up in Stampede and in Japan and places like that, I mean, they won gold with most places they went to, you know. We'll move on. Jushin Thunder Liger up next. A man who was highly decorated, but not necessarily in WWE. Had a light heavyweight championship in WCW, but most of his fame came obviously in New Japan, and obviously NWA as well. He was a world welterweight champion. What you thinking, Joe, on Jushin Thunder Liger?
Yeah, I'd actually, to be honest, every year I'd love to see more like him getting in. These guys that kind of transcend continents and stuff like that. With
global star.
Yeah, exactly. These global stars that, as you said, no, mightn't have been big in WWE. Was he ever in it? Actually, was he? It wasn't WCW. Wasn't he in NXT? Actually, he was in NXT for a bit.
Yeah, I think it was very short-lived.
Yeah. But I'd like to see more guys like that. That, as I said, were global superstars that maybe not necessarily did much of anything in WWE. But as I said, I'd love the Hall of Fame thing to be an independent thing anyway. So, Thunder Liger, like anyone that knows anything about wrestling knows who he is and thinks he's fucking marvelous. So absolutely no complaints whatsoever. As I said, I'd like to see more like him getting in.
Yeah, Jay has that iconic look, doesn't he?
He's, there's few times where my brain shuts the fuck up, right? Genuinely and honestly. It's almost like fucking Jesse and Gorilla are in my school 24/7, 365 since I fucking started watching. But there's certain stars who there's just silence up here. I just watch. I didn't know of him. Well, I always knew of him from the magazines and all, but when he pops up on one of the TV shows that I watch, you stop and you kind of just, you study, you focus, you keep an eye on little things you wouldn't necessarily do on people who you grew up with. And he's always been in the mix. I mean, I think his company hopping is a testament to how hard done by the cruisers and the lightweights have been done over the 90s and into the zeros. To the fact that men like him can make a job being brilliant in so many different federations and have to be globally recognized simply because it was get over and move on, because that's where the next paycheck was. It's he deserves it. He deserves it. And I'd like Joe just said, I think there should be one global ambassador, regardless of federation, always inducted every year, kind of just to let the world know. And I think that's happening again. I think under the network and H, I see them kicking open boundaries and borders, and maybe it's because the old man doesn't care so much, or he isn't so tightly squeezing onto what he believes is his, because he sees that, look, nothing's going to compete or put me out of business. Now I can let people like Yushin in, and that's fucking brilliant, man.
Yeah, and I suppose if their goal going forward is to create an actual Hall of Fame, a bricks and mortar Hall of Fame, if you like, it's good to have these guys in to open up those boundaries and stuff like that and make it more feel like what Joe was saying earlier, an international feel to it, as opposed to just being a WWE Hall of Fame, you know?
I think you'd get bigger visitor numbers.
Yeah.
You'd have people that want to go and see, as we said, the like belts that they've never seen before, and just see what kind of people held them, because there's bucket load of belts that big names held in much smaller federations before they got big, you know. And I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to see that and kind of go, oh, sure, he started down in this corner of nothing, like with a belt, and then he made it all the way up to the very top of the mountain. Like I think it'd be great.
You could also argue as well that those lesser seen belts men earned on the way up were tokens of their esteem, value, and draw, as opposed to, I know a contemporary word is prop on a Apex TV show. Do you know what I mean? There's a validity in some of them belts you never got to see. Like, we speak often on beautiful belts from around the world, and they're stunning. But it was just when somebody said something there, it made me realize that with the TikTok of how hard the WWE/F was in stoking and propping and filling their Hall of Fame, adding an international flavor every year kind of gives them somebody to put on stage again every year, because they ran out of a lot of names real quick when they weren't even televising this shit. There's men who we should be celebrating now who've been in 10, 15 years, and like, you know?
Yeah, it's very similar to what we spoke about the other night on the Bischoff episode that just released today as well, where we were saying that a lot of the good stuff that we like in WWE didn't necessarily start there in terms of historical presence and stuff like that. So it's good to bring in this other stuff as well to give it that full historical flavor, if you like. We'll move on to the next one, Jay. I'm going to shoot this one at you. This will be a good one when we talk about men. Yeah, go ahead. When we talk about men earning the place, you're going to need a lot more than a whiskey for this one. The New World Order, the NWO. When I was going down and listing credentials here, the credentials of these men goes into double numbers, you know, where some people have won belts once and twice and three times. These are in the 10s and the 11s and the 12s and stuff like that.
But those men aren't an induction. That's a fucking federation. Do you know what I mean? That's like, who are you excluding from that stage? Are you telling Virgil? Are you telling Meat Sauce he can't get up on stage because he wore the shirt? He was inducted. He was real, baby. He was for keeps.
Yeah, well, officially it's the three boys plus Sean Waltman. That's
but none of them were undefeated at WrestleMania. Virgil is. What do you want from him? No, I kid. Do you know what I mean? There's a little caveat, historical fact for all of us late in the day fans. Yeah, that's right. Virgil's undefeated at Mania. What are you gonna do about it? Your Undertaker isn't. But no, look, how could you not? And honestly, if anything, I would say it was quite possibly fitting that last year was the year that it was. And when it fell was in March, like the global bullshit, when it fell, it was in March. I mean, inducting the NWO onto into anything. They deserve to be on stage to see it and do it. They deserve to be talking. They deserve for it to be watched. And this is, we're talking coming up to one of the biggest manias in the world now. And you've got Damme. It's fitting. It's fitting. You know what I mean? And like you said, the belt fucking, the ownership of belts between them. Jesus goddamn titty Christ.
Well, it always helps when one of them is the booker and the other one was the president of the company.
And both of them, yes, and both of them have their wage stipulation in their contract for whoever comes through the door. We've to earn the same as. So if you put a belt on him, we're getting two.
Joe, you know the funny thing, Joe, when I looked at it, I was thinking it probably wouldn't be out of sorts if Bischoff had been in there as well with them, would it?
Absolutely not. There's so many names you could have thrown in there with them. Now, when you do think of the NWO, you do think of the three main lads, the Outsiders and Hogan. I'm not surprised Sean Waltman's been thrown in there too. Not a bad choice. But Bischoff definitely wouldn't have been out of place amongst them. But like the NWO, like when I knew nothing about WCW back years ago, because we didn't really get it here in Ireland, I knew about the NWO, and their shirts were in Ireland as well. And as I said, you couldn't really get WCW here unless you had you were paying big for TV. And I knew who they were. As I said, you could see their shirts out. Their shirts are still selling to this day. They were a huge impact on the business. They're the reason DX became a thing. And this will be Sean Waltman in it twice now, won't it?
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan in it.
It actually transcends shirtwear, right? I follow very closely the kind of belt market, and the amount of people who buy big golds to NWO is ridiculous. I mean, they've two big gold belts in their collections, and one they spray paint on, and you're like, what are you doing?
And it's one thing to spray with the black, but some even spray it with the red.
Whoa, okay, Wolfpack for life. I get that, I do. I'd spray it red before I'd spray it black, but that's neither here nor there. Hogan hate doesn't run that deep. I'd never deface something as stunningly beautiful as that. I think Al comes up a lot. When's he getting a podcast? When's he getting a show?
Hopefully soon. It's good for business.
Money.
So we'll move on and park the NWO there, because I suppose between the three of us, we're nearly NWO'd out in terms of the Bischoff episode the other night, which has just gone up. So
that was a lot of fun, by the way. Anybody watching and seeing this one who wasn't picked up on the Bischoff one, it was a decent, good, banterful conversation. It was good. He deserves it.
So then, from the highs of the NWO, next up, the Bella Twins. Joe, you take this first.
Look, to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about them. I know, was it Nikki held the Divas belt for a really long time. I think she was the longest reigning Divas champion. And Brie, I don't think she did much as a singles competitor.
Yeah, Brie held it once. Brie held it once, and Nikki held it twice.
Okay, and they're actually known outside the business as well. They had that TV show of theirs, which I think was quite successful. I'm not entirely sure. I never watched it, so but look, it's not a bad thing that they're there. I personally don't care that they're there. It doesn't upset me that they are, but it's a moot point for me. I'm not too pushed either way.
Yeah, I suppose, Jay, they picked up 4 Slammy Awards for Couple of the Year, Brie and Daniel Bryan.
Do you know if there wasn't 2 of them, there'd be none of them? I mean, imagine that. Imagine your claim to fame and your Hall of Fame ring being that 2 of us were born at the same time from the same woman. Why are you as famous? Well, because we're twins. Jesus goddamn titty Christ. It's an ugly aspect of the business that I don't enjoy, so I don't indulge in. I mean, how you can have a Hall of Fame with the fucking Bella Twins in when I'm pretty sure their fucking ring gear still stinks from the retirements. They weren't they only in it 7 years ago and then out of it 3 years ago when they got their boyfriends? Now I will say this: one loved their man and is still with him. The other went out with John because she loved his camera. You know, you know what? That it's something for the kids. It's something for the reality TV generation, which I've very little to do with. And you know what? More power to them. Fuck it. I don't care. I never will care, and they will never matter to me. I mean, how you can have a Hall of Fame with the Bella twins in it and Miss Elizabeth isn't in it is beyond me. But here we are. You know.
Okay, so we'll park the Bellas for the moment, to say the least. We'll move on. The celebrity wing kicks in now, and we have none other than Mr. Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner. Joe.
Mr. James T. Yeah, look, it's not about. He's been around a few times. He's a huge name. Pretty much everyone knows who he is or knows of him. Like, I'm personally a fan of his, so I'm not upset to see him in there. I'm not crazy about the whole celebrity wing side of the Hall of Fame anyway, but if you're like, they have one there, and why not have him in it? And like the clock is ticking on that guy. What is he now, 90? So it's probably not a bad idea to get him in now.
I don't think it matters. I mean, he can just get caught in a warp loop and come back to WWE whenever he wants, apparently.
Yeah, I do enjoy some of his narration on the network. He does have that distinct sort of voice, that's very good at setting the scene for a story. Jay, what was your thinking on William Shatner going in when you heard?
I love absolutely every aspect to do with that man's career. If you were to take a celebrity in life who mirrored the ridiculous pomp and silliness at times that pro wrestling conjures, and how far you can fucking run on two warp nacelles full of it, James Tiberius Cork is him. He has always turned up. He's like a bad penny, and obviously Vince is a fan. Obviously, I don't think he even knows what the product is. I don't think he knows what he's doing. He just turns up and does this fucking William Shatner thing, but he always gives it his all. He has the ability to entertain generations. He has that lovely kitsch silliness to him that is also perfect. And man, he's the captain of my heart, first and foremost. Secondly, he's the greatest captain ever in Starfleet. And thirdly,
I'd argue with you on that one, Jay, but that's for something else.
No, Joe, don't
forgive Joe.
Joe, come on.
He did at Kittimer.
Come in, Joe. Don't leave us hanging there. Come on.
It's Picard for me, man. And Jay knew I was going to say that.
Oh God, that fucking French philosophical imbecile. He's not even the third best captain. Jesus, yeah, listen, there was no Picard when I grew up. There was James T. Cork, and there were reruns, and you just got into it. He's the man who launched 1,000 ships. He is Starfleet.
And that may be
why Cisco. Then
might
it's
Cisco. We're different. Next Generation was my.
You're showing your age. You're showing your youth again, Joe.
I'm not that much younger than you.
Yeah, listen. The fact is, the Next Generation didn't take off until fucking Loiger grew a beard. You know what I mean?
I'll give you that. No, Riker was much better with the beard.
Yes. Everybody was much better with Riker's beard.
And lads, and what a beard!
And what a beard! Also, how that man straddles a chair should be in the Hall of Fame itself. No, look. If you're going to, the celebrity wing of the Hall of Fame is exactly what it is, and if you're going to get thrown in there because you did 2 shows, whatever. But Cork, like I said, he's like a bad penny. He just turns up when you least expect him, and he's been regular. And if you're going to have a celebrity, just for the cross, we spoke about this. What Vince's main vision was the mainstream. What do you call that? Across the stars. Yeah, you know what I mean? There is a value to it in pro wrestling. Our sport would still be in seedy bingo halls if it wasn't for bigger names taking air shit and elevating it to the next societal fucking level. I mean,
the whole rock and wrestling thing, like.
Yeah, it's we have to accept it. Do you know what I mean? Like, whether it's Kiss at WCW or whether it's the fucking Bella Twins goddamn shitty TV shows, it's part of the deal now at this stage. And fuck it, yeah, bring in Cork, bring him in. You know.
So there's probably a case for the Bella Twins going into the celebrity wing, yeah?
Would you put them in there before the wrestling wing? Do you know what I mean? They're no Liv Morgan.
So We'll move on to the last one for the 2020, which is obviously, I presume, Jay, this is one close to your heart as well, the Warrior Award. Mr. Titus O'Neill is picking it up this year for some outstanding charity work he does all around the Tampa area. And obviously with the granddaddy of them all show being there this year, it would seem fitting that he would be the man who would be the recipient of the award. Jay, what you thinking on the award in general? And then obviously
long overdue. It was one of the things that struck me down, cut me up, and pulled me asunder when Big Man went in for arguably the greatest Hall of Fame speech in the history of the business. And I think that's undeniable. To think you can make a movie out of his Hall of Fame speech alone. But the fact that he laid it down and called out pro wrestlers who just live in this bubble of self-importance and bullshit. When he called out John and said, you know what, there's a guy who gets it, Make-A-Wish Foundations. There's a guy who understands that we can use our fame to better the world and put ourselves across as not just guys who die of fucking drug overdoses and do vile shit. We can actually make a difference. It might not be a global difference, but you know what? It's a fucking difference and it should be marked and it should matter. And isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't that what it's about at the end of the day? And Titus O'Neill hasn't got the greatest run in his life as a professional wrestler. But the fact that somebody in the back has realized, well, this man is plowing away at doing good shit without any kind of fucking, you know what I mean? He's not on Twitter going, hey, everybody, I gave $2 to this homeless guy. Woo! It's just like, you know what? Whenever I'm not on, I'll do all the good shit. I don't need your permission to do it. I need cameras in front of my face. And that's what we need more of. Let these men on astronomical wages make a difference for the positive as opposed to just hearing that negative shit. For every one episode of Dark Side of the Ring, we're going to get a Warrior Award. And fucking you ain't balanced, you know? Fair play to him.
Good. Joe, what you're thinking? I mean, obviously he's entertained us a lot with some of these trips and stuff like that. And obviously the stuff originally with Vince McMahon and all I thought was absolutely brilliant. Joe, what you thinking?
Yeah, no, look, it's richly deserved from what you read about the man, what people say about him. And no one ever has a bad word to say about him. So as Jay said, when the cameras are off, he's doing all the right things, stuff we won't see. So it's a richly deserved award. It's also, as Jay said, I think it's an award that was necessary as well. I think it probably should have been brought in long before it was ever called the Warrior Award, because it's a great idea just to acknowledge the work that can be done outside the ring by people as well. I think it's fantastic, and as I said, everything you read about Titus O'Neill is just brilliant and positive. So it's great to see him getting it.
Yeah, it is a nice legacy as well, Jay, to the Warrior, isn't it? In terms of
fucking love seeing this mask.
But the recognition of good in the business, you know what I mean? Which is kind of what he was really all about, you know what I mean? Kind of sums him up just in that word, you know. So it's
just always believe, you know.
Yeah. So that
do you really think it summed him up? A fella that kind of held out for big money and stuff for this and.
No,
get your pay, Joe. Get your pay.
No, I'm just putting it out there. But like, you know, he wasn't. You know, people talk about him backstage. He wasn't the nicest guy to deal with, and he said some awful homophobic stuff in the past.
Did you watch it always comes back to this? Did you ever watch that? That particular situation in front of that room of college students where he said that homophobic shit?
Oh, he didn't. No.
I did. It was a hard watch. They basically trolled him for about 45 minutes with their astute collegiate intellect, and you could see him getting slowly frustrated. This was a man who lifted weights and dropped people on their face for a lot of money for about 7 years of his life. He would not be the intellectual, tour de force that some other men would be. But at the end of the day, when you've got the hottest ticket of that year was his Hall of Fame speech, and to call out John for the good shit he did instead of standing there defaming Hogan for the bad shit he did, he could have went on a negative rant, but he didn't. He thanked the hot dog vendors, he thanked the fans, he had Linda walk him out, he told the little girls that it was all for them, he called out Big John. He might have been a shitty guy at times, every human is human. But to stand up in front of the world at the hottest ticket in a pro wrestling event of the year and just call out good shit, well, that's good shit.
Plus, I would also add to that as well. Knowing your worth and wanting to be paid doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. It just makes you intelligent.
No. It's not just the money side, but a lot of people said he was very shitty backstage too. Like, you know, but
well, there's an episode in this going in the future as well. There's been a lot of men coming out recently saying the opposite. Men who never had a voice in the magazines or the tapes, saying, you know what, that wasn't the Jim I knew. The guy I knew was a lovely guy. He used to give me a lift in his limo to work every day.
Yeah, I'd also add to that as well. I doubt there's a wrestler past, present, or future that's not going to have moments in his career where he's in a locker room where he has to get a bit shitty.
I think for him it was particularly apex. I think when you're thrown into the spotlight so quickly, and he was definitely green and not the greatest worker in the business. And when you're thrown into a pool of sharks with no arms to swim, you get real mean with teeth real quick, especially when the guys you're standing beside are guys who are notoriously infamous for fucking over their colleagues for 20 and 30 years just to get ahead. I don't think it's the men that's the problem. I think it's the nature of the business and when promoters groom men to succeed. Like, success has a filtration system, and unless you got teeth, you ain't getting nowhere. And unfortunately, wrestling, there's an episode in this as well. Unfortunately, wrestling exacerbates that situation to a degree that most other businesses don't. Now, there's men who get it and do it right. Big John, like the Warrior called out on stage that night. I mean, nobody's ever going to break his Make-A-Wish record.
Plus, I sometimes look at the stuff that comes out these days on social media about, you know, people who put out this post 20 years ago or that thing 30 years ago, whatever it is. I often like judging people, not necessarily where they begin, but sometimes where they finish. Is really the true measure of a man, really. And the baggage that you carry around with you sometimes is only a moment in time that has happened, you know. It's not necessarily a reflection of the person.
Yeah.
But yeah, so listen, let's move on to the class of 2021. This year we're absolutely spoiled because we're getting 2 Hall of Fames. So let's kick it off with the one and the only Molly Holly. Joe, what you thinking on Molly Holly?
Yeah, she's a fantastic performer. You know, we went from the Bellas in the 20 class to someone who absolutely and utterly thoroughly deserves to be there. She was fantastic when she did, like, what was it, Super Molly as well, you know what I mean? She was able to work. She was as good as anyone in the ring, and thoroughly entertaining. Everyone that talks about her has nothing but good to say about her too, and working with her and stuff like that. So it absolutely, utterly deserves to be there. She's fantastic, and was a fantastic champion when she was performing as well. Brilliant. I'm delighted she's in there.
Brilliant. Jay, memories of Molly Holly?
She was a wrestler before she was a woman. You know, when they marketed her, it was a weird time for women in pro wrestling. There was a lot of kind of your mud match bikini women, and there was also a few female professional wrestlers who were not distinguished as female professional wrestlers. They were fucking workers. They were, to use to the way the Irish used the term lads, she was one of the boys. Like, she had a respect. She did what she did. She was a convincing character, whether it was serious or comedic. And you put in front of the girl, she took care of as much as anybody.
Yeah, I always you know, my one memory of her really when she was wrestling was, you know, when she runs down that corridor with the hardcore belt and Christian takes her head off with the door. I just always remember that one. The minute someone mentions Molly Holly to me, I just thought it was just one of the greatest bumps I'd ever seen. You know? She just literally got you know, it's only second to when Abyss took AJ Styles' head off with the cage at Lockdown. But yeah, what a smack he ever like. And I just remember Christian grabbing the belt and just, you know, the way Christian was and all, you know what I mean? And I was thinking, like, he's doing this to Molly Holly, like, you know what I mean? It was just crazy, like, you know? But yeah, definitely one that's deserving.
Yeah.
Up next, I mean, do we even have to talk about it? The one and the only Eric Bischoff. I mean, we just dropped the episode.
What's left to be said?
2.5 hours. There's nothing more we can add to this, man.
2.5, really?
Wow. Yeah, it was 2 hours, 2 hours, 25 minutes or something like that.
Came in like that?
35.
2 hours, 35, was it?
Yeah, 2:35, yeah.
Yeah.
Shit, Joe was charging us after the second hour. I thought because of how long we've been doing this, we get it for free. But no, apparently after 2 hours, it's by the minute, man.
I'm putting the last 20 minutes down to our love for Finn Balor, but that's not here. But yeah, this was definitely a man who has to go in there. You know what I mean? It's just, as we said earlier, it's weird that he's not picking up 2 rings in the same session with the NWO. But yeah, absolutely. I mean,
he's be feeling a bit cheated. Maybe that was the slight. Maybe he knew he was going in with it, and they figured all in the same night. But by the way, Eric, we could have kept you for a year between. You're not getting 2. You're getting 1. Whereas everybody else in the NWO was like 7.
Next up, a man without a shadow of a doubt absolutely belongs in the Hall of Fame and every wrestling Hall of Fame. None less than Mr. Glenn Jacobs, Kane. Joe, talk to me.
Look, an absolute icon of the business. Like, you know, when you hear Kane, you know, you see it. You see the mask. You know, I personally see where he first arrived and he had the arm covered up with the glove and that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and then, you know, he reinvented himself later on, and just even the way he introduced himself to the WWE when he came down, he ripped the door off the cage and all that. Like, all that stuff is hugely iconic. And then he goes on to have a huge rivalry with the Undertaker. Ends up teaming with him in the Brothers of Destruction. You know, became corporate Kane as well. You know, he wasn't afraid to, you know, he wasn't afraid to kind of, you know, move his gimmick on a bit. Now I thought it was a bit ridiculous that his scars disappeared and he was all of a sudden able to talk. You know what I mean? But these things kind of evolve. Like, and but like, you know, to be honest, you kind of say to yourself, like, if you think of a Hall of Fame, he's in it. You know what I mean? Before he was ever in it, like, you think of Hall of Fame and Kane is 100%.
Some men don't need permission.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He was in it before he was ever invited into it. You know, so absolutely 110% deserves to be there.
Yeah, I seen the clip there the other day from the bump when they rang him up to announce he was going in, and it was Taker who released the news to him. And I thought that was kind of fitting as well, and it was very emotional, and you could see how welled up he was getting, you know what I mean? That, like, Taker had taken this time out to, you know, contact him live and say, you know, you're going in, man. Welcome. You know, and I thought that was kind of fitting and kind of cool as well. But I'd also, when I think of Kane as well, I think about how many times he reinvented himself as well, even though he was staying as the monster. But when he went in there and he was doing the Hell No stuff with Daniel Bryan and tagging with Rob Van Dam, you know, tagging with The Undertaker, you know what I mean? There's such a divergence there within his career that he was able to adapt to work with all these men, you know what I mean? Like when you think about that relationship with Daniel Bryan and the Shrink and all and the Hell No stuff and all, it was just absolutely classic entertainment for us as wrestling fans. What you're thinking,
he wouldn't have had the longevity without doing that.
Yeah.
You know, he would have been a monster for a few years and just kind of faded into obscurity. Yeah. So, you know, and then you have to look at the gimmicks he had before. You know, Dr. Isaac Yankem, and he wasn't Fake Diesel as well. Like,
Fake Diesel. I remember this shit. I remember the Yankem and the Fake Diesel. You know,
some people might say he was the real Diesel and the other lad was the fake one. However, Jay, what you're thinking on Kane?
You know, you talk about long and storied careers, and you talk about people being handed gimmicks and being allowed to run with them, and he was handed something that was so fucking bulletproof at the start. It was, how are you going to fuck this up? We're going to give you the slow, methodical style. You're going to be the fucking brother of the other. You're going to have this bitchin' costume, which pisses all over most men's fucking ring attire. You're going to be allowed to wear a mask so you can keep your life together without being, oh, aren't you, even though you're 67 foot tall. Your physicality is without question, but we need you to slow it down and not work as densely as you usually would, because we've got this idea for you. It's going to be slow and protracted over the years. You're going to come into your own. And you're like, yeah, okay. And traditionally speaking, you get 6 or 7 years out of that if you're lucky. You get 5 and 2 on decline. If you're lucky, because like we said, every 7 years the cycle changes, the time changes, the people changes, the kids grow up. But he's got he was I think it's a testament to the man who he is behind the mask, that he took what they gave him and continued with it for so long. And now at times it got a bit hokey, but it never got stale. And the more of his personality came through, you realised he's such a fucking sweetheart as a human. Like he's like Uncle Kane. Do you know what I mean? But some of the shit they had him doing was serial killer fucking Jason Voorhees shit. Taker was allowed run with Taker because the Federation realised we really need this guy. He's transitioned between that hokey ass fucking early 90s shit and he's running it in through this attitude there and it's working with him. But Kane had a kind of slightly later run than Taker, and there was parallels between them, and you could say movesets are the same at times, but they weren't. It's a testament to the man as well. He's a very cerebral pro wrestler. Little tweaks and changes all the way through his career kept it fresh. We want to watch. He got fucking movie roles before they were handing them to anybody else. He's just he deserves it, and his comedy shit is as good as fucking his psycho killer shit.
Yeah.
Like, he's a very versatile human.
Yeah, but you were just saying, just there, Jay, when you talked about the little tweaks and stuff like that to his moveset, you know, he was always in danger of just being an Undertaker copycat.
Yes.
You know, that danger, I'd say that was always in the back of his mind, that if I do too much of that kind of stuff, I'm just going to be a copycat. And so just
plagiarizing a gimmick. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was different enough for him to get away with it. And it was fantastic.
And when they joined together, like we said on the tag team shit, it was like a fucking monster movie. It was the original Kong versus Godzilla. When you've got the two of them standing and you're kind of holding the little white rope and you're looking at your tag partner, it's like, that's fucking Kane. That's the fucking Undertaker, man. Well, what? You know what I mean?
I just noticed the
What
way
do we
you
do?
said that, us being tag partners, you're the one holding the rope and I'm the one looking across the ring, and you're saying to me, this is what you're looking at. So I noticed the way you were saying you're holding the little white rope. That means obviously I'm in the ring getting the beat down. Thanks.
Hey, whoa, hot tag.
Yeah, that's only for the pin.
You weren't always a host, hot tag. Where'd you go, brah? Where'd you go?
I paid the price, don't worry.
Fucking corporate hot tag.
So, as I said to you, when I looked at these inductees, I went down through their accomplishments and stuff like that. So we'll move on to our next inductee. And it's mad that this is following Kane, because when you look at Kane's list of achievements, it's a page long, if not more, you know. So then we move on to the great Khali. And I looked at the list of achievements. So two that stuck out to me, apart from being world heavyweight champion. Most overrated gimmick in 2007 and worst gimmick in 2008. And I was kind of thinking, this is a Hall of Fame ceremony. What have I missed? I probably could accept it more if he was going in as the celebrity wing for the longest yard or something like that. You know, I could probably live with that. But in terms of wrestling, very, very, very difficult to kind of palate really as a wrestling fan, and especially with us guys as purists. Joe, great Khali.
Look, you had the Bella twins in 20, you have him in 21. You know, there's, you know, just as you said, it's difficult to see him in there. Look, he's not great. I think the Bellas have have a better call to be in there than he does. I don't like him at all. He was always a bore, which is the worst thing you can be as a wrestler. Boring. You know, that you don't get any kind of reaction, like, and that's what he got. It was just, oh, not this lad, Jesus Christ, like a physical freak. Don't get me wrong, like, you can't take that away from him. He's an absolute specimen of a man, like, but utterly, like, he was basically a stockier version of Elegante, and I don't see him going in anytime soon. So it's a painful one to see go in when you think about some of the names, even some of the names he's going in there with, like Kane and Molly Holly, and you say to yourself, and this guy is going in with them? Jesus Christ. You know, it's not great. I don't think it looks very good.
Well, you know, as wrestling fans, we always say, you know yourself, there's always one. Jay, great Khali.
You know, there's times you question why you still watch. And those times are more often than not when Khali's in the ring. And I am not going to be cruel on this. He is a specimen physically, but he's a throwback to the time where promoters threw men who were physically unwell into the ring because you just paid to see them. It's bizarre. He is a demograph. He sells and spikes the Indian market through the roof to the point where it's the next development. It is all that I hate about pro wrestling. He seems like a lovely guy. I fucking loved his work in the longest yard. I did. I love the fact that I never thought in my life I'd see a side profile of a man who actually had the Dandy's Desperate Dan chin. I was a big Dandy reader as a child. We didn't have fucking X-Men. All of our mutants were just superhuman strength because they had Cowboy. And there's Cowboy right there in the ring. But I'm 28. I'm 29. I don't know. Why are you there? Do you know what I mean? We were probably at one stage, I don't even know if it happened shades away from getting a Hornswoggle versus the Great Khali fucking match, like in a Punjabi death cell. That's where Vince humor lies sometimes. And it feels wrong. He doesn't deserve to be there, but it's not his fault. Do you know what I mean? He didn't do anything wrong. He was just 74 foot tall and could miss a chop to the head.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, you know, when you hear Kane is going into the Hall of Fame and you think straight away, well, probably Taker's going to induct him or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, who's even going to induct this guy?
The Bella twins. They don't know who he is. He doesn't know who they are. Everybody fucking wins. Give them a 2-minute speech each. Thank you. See ya. You know what I mean?
Are the US Postal Service still delivering? Yeah, we could just post them out to you if you like.
3 weeks later,
we find out that Mahal, didn't he turn up for 5 minutes with Jinder Mahal at one stage?
It's a territorial rub. India is a massive place, and they've got a development territory down there, and they're plowing into. There's things we don't see that company doing on television simply because it's regionalized. I mean, I'm sure NXT India is fucking huge wherever they are. It's making the company shitloads of money because Mexico's already broke long before Vince got a global fucking network. Japan has been an established place. Europe as well. There's going to be a WWE fucking Africa as well, and they're going to plow into there in the next 20 years. And then, look, it's a very cynical ploy by a publicly floated company, and we might benefit in the long run from these superstars who are natural, physical, charismatic athletes. And I'd love to see the globalization of the product. But don't make it because of men like Khali. Yeah. Give me the naturals.
Yeah, you know? I suppose when you're developing into those markets, somewhere along the line, you need a recognizable ambassador, and I presume he's that recognizable ambassador. And
he's breaking ice.
And this honor obviously raises his profile a hell of a lot more than what his wrestling career did, you know. So I said I structured this in such a way that we'd finish on a good note, Joe. And I know, you know, you're a big fan of this man, Mr. Rob Van Dam, Mr. RVD. Joe, talk to me, Rob Van Dam.
Look, a magnificent performer. Wherever he was, when he was at ECW and he was kicking all the ass there, like, and then coming in and he was probably the only one to come out of the invasion looking good. He was the only one that I think he was the only one that kind of came in and actually got a bit of a rub later on. Then, like, even there more recently there at Impact, he was kicking ass there too. He was putting on great matches with people. You know, he's and I think didn't he hold the world record for the Van Damme lift for a while too? Like, I don't know how true that is. That could just be a rumor. Like, bollocks.
I choose to believe it's true.
Yeah. But
much like your Jesus.
But you know, you have Rolling Thunder, you have the Van Terminator, and all these moves that he was so fluid. Like the way he used to get to a top rope to do his frog splash. I don't think there's anyone that does that yet, is there? The way he used to just hop straight up onto it was unbelievable. Just an absolute and utter icon in professional wrestling, I have to say. And, you know, without him, you wouldn't have a lot of the high flyers you have now. You know, he influenced a huge amount of them. Like those battles, like he had with the likes of Sabu and Jerry Lynn and ECW were out of this world. Like they really were. And you know, he could step in there with anyone. He could step in there with someone like a lunatic like Sabu and put on a hardcore match. He could get in there with a technical genius like Jerry Lynn or Lance Storm and put on a clinic for people.
Sorry, Jerry Flynn.
Jerry Lynn. He, you know, and put on an absolute clinic. So you know what I mean. He's just an all round brilliant. Maybe his mic work wasn't absolutely fantastic, but he didn't need it. He was so charismatic, and the way he moved in the ring and stuff, just you couldn't help but fall in love with him. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I used to, the singlets and all were cool as well, where he was just a cool guy. Like, but I noticed when he came in, you know, when he came into WWE, like he never seemed out of place. Like, you know, the way when some guys came in, you knew, well, they were the WCW guys and they were the ECW guys. But this guy was just, you know, so laid back and like, yeah, whatever, man. You know, it didn't matter. Who am I working tonight? Doesn't matter. I just you know. It. You know, he was just so laid back, didn't care, just slotted in. He could slot in anywhere. The other thing that I also hold him in high regard about as well, he was a huge supporter of the indie scene when he wasn't under contract. I mean, you're talking about a man here who's a former OTT champion. He's a former AWR champion when Joe ran the AWR tours. He was also the NLW champion, the No Limit champion as well, when Joe ran that as well. So I know Joe has a very good relationship with Rob Van Dam, and he really supported the growth of the indie scene in Europe as well when he wasn't under contract, which
didn't he once have two girlfriends at the same time as well, publicly? That was probably a promo.
Yeah, maybe. No. But yeah,
I kid, I rib.
Go ahead, Jay. What you thinking, Rob Van Dam?
How often in any industry do you get somebody who's so effortlessly cool that they just take to it naturally? When I remember in the gym training to get this shit down pat, to not look foolish in front of cameras, that guy rolled out of bed, pulled on a singlet, and did it like he'd been doing it every second of his fucking life. He's a communicator. It doesn't matter where he is or who he is. He mirrors what's in front of him. You want to go fucking hardcore, RVD will go hardcore. You want to go top shelf, fucking main event, show stopping shit, RVD's got that. You want to do 400 people in a bingo hall? He'll do that like it was 93,000 people at a main event somewhere. You get nothing less than 100%, and it's effortlessly cool. It just is. It's just flawless. It's fluid, and it is without a fucking fuck to give. He is that. Is there a belt around my waist? I don't know, but I'm gonna wrestle the guy beside me like it matters. He just doesn't matter if it's TNA. Doesn't matter if it's WWE or OTT or AEW or WWF or WWE. Wherever he goes, one thing remains the same. He is Rob Van Dam. And how often have we seen that in the last 20 years?
Yeah. I remember.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
His lovely shit, the Ultimate one. Do you remember that they had that little buddy friendship for a little brief while there? Back when the Ultimate one was out in the fucking boondocks and nobody wanted to touch him when we were still in the middle of the self-destruction shit. And RVD's there with the black face paint on, giving it this big Ultimate Warrior impression. And then the big man just steps out from behind the camera and staring at him.
Yeah, I remember talking to a friend of ours, Joe, you know as well, Paddy Morrow, an absolute gent of a man. And I remember talking to him one time in the shop, and I was saying, like, what was it like being on tour with Rob Van Dam? And I remember Paddy saying to me, so he's just one of the lads. You know what I mean? That was the mark of the man. He says, an absolute gentleman. And I remember, I'm not sure, was he over touring with TNA at one stage, Joe?
He could have been.
Yeah.
He might have been, yeah.
And I remember he made a point of hitting up all the lads and sorting them out with tickets and meeting them after the show up in the hotel and all, and they had drinks together, him and Sean Max O'Brien and Paddy Morrow and all these lads. And I remember, like, you know, he never forgot the lads. He never forgot the
what a human.
with, you know what I mean? And I just remember them all speaking so fondly of him, that he was just such fun and just, you know, just one of the lads, you know what I mean? And it was brilliant to hear it, you know, because we were thinking like it's AWR and Rob Van Dam is on tour with them, you know, but literally he was just one of the boys. It was fantastic to hear it, you know. So yeah, lads, that basically sums up the two Hall of Fames coming up over the next day or two. It's been a pleasure as always. So as always, head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Also available on Anchor, Podbean, Spotify for your audio versions. Gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure.
Wait 1 second.
Go ahead.
DPN.
What else can I add to that? Joe, as
Shameless
always,
plug.
a pleasure. Cheers, boys.